Yeah, but I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA.
Holy shit. For this? For the pod? Again?
They didn't like my comments on Paige Bueckers.
No way.
I didn't even say anything bad.
The WNBA is in the middle of a full-blown civil war, and the battle lines have been drawn. But this war isn't being fought with crossovers and jump shots on the hardwood. It's being waged through a microphone, in a podcast studio, by a single player who dared to speak her mind. The league thought its biggest challenge was fighting for ratings and respect. But it turns out the most dangerous threat was already inside the house. Sophie Cunningham has ignited a rebellion against a league that demands control, and in doing so she has exposed a shocking campaign of hypocrisy and intimidation that threatens to unravel the entire organization. This isn't just about basketball anymore. It's a fight for the soul of a league at a tipping point.
She spoke about the league, but more importantly, she stated she got another fine for actually talking about Paige Bueckers. Now, we all ultimately know what happened last time. She had her podcast. She let it be known that Paige Bueckers got that blue blood whistle, bro. And make a long story short, she stated the WNBA fined her for that. And she spoke about Bree Hartley. She also talked about Caitlin Clark rehab. But guys, it's unfortunate that she will be out for the remainder.
Sophie Cunningham, known for her fiery on-court intensity, decided to launch her own podcast, Show Me Something, with a simple goal: to give fans an unfiltered, honest look inside the world of professional women's basketball. In a media landscape filled with polished, pre-approved sound bites, her show was a breath of fresh air. It was raw, it was real, and it was exactly what fans were craving. But she quickly learned that in the WNBA, authenticity comes with a price tag. The league office, seemingly paranoid about controlling every narrative, began monitoring her every word. The campaign against her started subtly, with a $500 fine for a simple TikTok video. In it, she was just lip-syncing lyrics while playfully referencing the referees. It was a joke, the kind of content athletes post every day. But the league wasn't laughing. It was a warning shot, a clear message that they were watching. Then, after her very first official podcast episode where she discussed officiating, a $1,500 fine followed. The pattern was undeniable. Sophie Cunningham was a problem the league wanted to solve, and they planned to do it by bleeding her dry, one penalty at a time.
So lads, the WNBA have done it. They have done it. They have officially fined Sophie Cunningham every podcast episode. They have fined her, because Sophie Cunningham has been fined, I'm not joking. She's been fined for a TikTok. She's been fined now, I think, for the third time for a podcast. I think Sophie Cunningham might be the all-time leader in fines in the WNBA. So let's take a listen.
The situation truly exploded after a comment so simple, so seemingly harmless, that it's hard to believe it caused such a firestorm. On a recent episode, Sophie made a basic basketball observation, one that analysts and fans had been making for weeks. She noted that rookie phenom Paige Bueckers seems to get favorable calls from the referees, what's commonly known in sports as a blue blood whistle. She literally said, "Paige Bueckers got that blue blood whistle, bro." It wasn't an attack on Paige, nor was it a baseless accusation. It was a standard sports take. Yet to the WNBA, it was an act of rebellion. The league, desperate to protect its shiny new stars and control the narrative around them, saw this as a direct challenge to their authority. An undisclosed fine was handed down almost immediately, confirming Sophie was now a perfect 3 for 3, a fine for every podcast she had ever recorded. The message from the league office was deafeningly clear: you will not criticize the officiating, and you will certainly not question the treatment of our marquee players. This heavy-handed punishment immediately begged a question that would expose the league's deep-seated hypocrisy.
They are not protecting their players. Nobody's going to watch this if you're not protecting your star player. You're not protecting your players, period, but particularly your star players. No one's going to watch this. People are watching it because of Caitlin Clark, and then even more because of Sophie Cunningham. And if you're going to just hang them out to dry, then, good. Nobody's going to watch this anymore because they don't protect their players. It's a worthless organization. They have no idea how to protect their players. But, oh man, they're going to bitch and moan. Well, you better pay us the money. For what? You can't even protect your star players that draw the eyeballs. Now nobody's watching. Nobody's going to watch to see the star players sitting out with injuries because of poor treatment and poor officiating on the sides. Nobody's going to watch that.
While Sophie Cunningham was being financially penalized for her words, the WNBA was developing a curious blind spot when it came to actual on-court aggression, especially against its biggest star, Caitlin Clark. The league was enjoying a massive surge in popularity thanks to Clark, yet on the court she was being treated like a human pinball. Viewers watched in shock as Chennedy Carter delivered a blatant hip check to Clark from behind, away from the ball, a play that resulted in a mere common foul at the time. Marina Mabrey knocked her to the ground with a hard foul that was celebrated by her coach. These weren't just tough basketball plays. They were targeted, aggressive acts that went largely unpunished in the moment. Yet the league's response was often delayed and underwhelming. Meanwhile, other players were echoing Sophie's sentiments without consequence. Angel Reese, in a live press conference, directly said some players get a special whistle, a comment far more pointed than Cunningham's, yet there was no public fine. Star players like Kelsey Plum and Aja Wilson have openly criticized officiating in post-game interviews, sometimes stopping them entirely to go on a rant. The double standard was infuriatingly obvious. It wasn't about protecting the league's integrity, it was about who was allowed to speak and where. Criticizing referees in a league-controlled press conference was one thing, but doing it on your own independent platform, that was a threat they had to extinguish.
She has turned herself into a top 5 most talked about player in the WNBA. And can I tell you, I am loving the clips that are coming out of this podcast. There's just so much fascinating elements of her that make her this really alpha, really strong, but really beautiful, spicy villain. And I think she kind of likes being the villain.
And I'm officially 3 for 3 on being fined by the WNBA.
Holy shit. For this? For the pod? Again?
They didn't like my comments on Paige Bueckers.
No way.
I didn't even say anything bad.
On the whistle? On the quick whistle?
Yeah. But like, why? Like,
If we want to talk about Paige, here's a good question.
They fined her for saying Paige Bueckers has a good whistle. Like, I kid you not, that is one of the craziest reasons I've seen a player get fined.
The systematic effort to silence Cunningham was a calculated financial gag order. To understand its true impact, you have to look at the financial reality of the WNBA. While top players make a good living, the average salary is a world away from the NBA's millions. For many players, a fine of $500 isn't just pocket change, it's a significant financial hit. The league was leveraging this reality to apply maximum pressure. The method of delivery was just as insidious. Sophie revealed the league never contacts her directly. They send an email to her team's general manager, who is then forced to act as the enforcer, pulling her aside in front of everyone to deliver the bad news. Imagine the psychological toll, being constantly called into the principal's office, never knowing what you did wrong this time. Sophie described the feeling on her podcast, saying when her GM approaches her, her first thought is always, "What did I do now?" It's a power play designed to create a constant state of anxiety, to make her feel isolated, and to remind her that the league's authority reaches right into her own locker room.
There is something seriously wrong with how the W enforces their rules. And I know there's already been a big emphasis on referee inconsistencies, but at the end of the day, the quality of referees is on the WNBA too. Because again, I have no idea where the line is. Because on one hand, I kind of get it. It's normal for a league to fine you if you're going to talk bad about the league or the players in the league. Because that happens all the time in the NBA, NFL, and so on. But on the other hand, why does the league not care about its image when players are standing over and cursing out their opponents on the court? Like, where was the enforcement here? Or where was it here? Or where was it when the whole entire league was bullying your star player? And this stuff is happening all the time in the WNBA, but why is it only called on occasion? Which is why finding Sophie Cunningham every time she has a podcast seems kind of crazy, because the WNBA obviously chooses when and when not to enforce the rule.
But in a stunning turn of events, the WNBA's iron-fisted strategy backfired more spectacularly than they could have ever imagined. Instead of intimidating Sophie into silence, they accidentally transformed her into a folk hero. As news of her fine spread like wildfire, a massive fan rebellion erupted online. Social media was flooded with messages of support, with fans calling her a truth teller and the voice of the people. Comments poured in, saying things like, "This league is so effed up, I hate the WNBA at times. Sophie keep calling out their nonsense." The league had tried to make her an example, and they succeeded, just not in the way they intended. She became a symbol of resistance against a controlling, out-of-touch organization. Her podcast listenership exploded. In a fascinating twist of modern media, it was pointed out that the YouTube monetization from the very episodes she was being fined for was likely generating enough revenue to cover the penalties. The league's attempts to punish her were, in effect, only making her brand and her bank account stronger. They were fighting a 21st century media war with 20th century tactics, and they were losing badly.
Do they, when you get fined, do they put like verbatim, like quote here, like this is why you're being fined and this is why it's this much? Or is it like, hey, quit talking shit on us, Venmo us like $1,500?
What happens is they they email our GM, and she pulls me aside and she goes, "Come here, Soph, I have to talk to you." And this was in like front of everybody. And I was like, "What did I do now?" And she just smiled and she goes, "Hey, they're going to find you again." They're like, I was like, I even told them, I even credited them that their job was hard. I did say that. And I said that I would not be good at it. I did say that. Like, look at the whole picture. What are we doing?
Cunningham tweeted about getting fined, basically saying that she thinks it's laughable and that the league probably has bigger issues they should be focusing on. Now, WNBA officiating has faced major scrutiny all season long from some of the league's biggest stars and coaches. You can find a ton of articles about it online where they're all calling for more consistency. One of the more quotable examples came from Angel Reese after the Chicago Sky lost to the Minnesota Lynx on July 6th. Reese said that the officiating has to be fixed. She said, "I don't give a you-know-what if I get fined because that stuff is cheap and I'm tired of this stuff." You get the point. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert addressed the officiating ahead of the All-Star game last weekend. She said that it is something that the league is continuing to work on and that they are on it. Engelbert mentioned that
To truly understand this conflict, you have to zoom in on the issue at the very heart of it. The WNBA's officiating is in a state of crisis. This isn't just Sophie Cunningham's opinion. It's a sentiment shared by players, coaches, and fans across the entire league. The 2024 season has been plagued by inconsistent calls, missed flagrant fouls, and a general sense of confusion about what constitutes illegal play. The scrutiny reached a fever pitch after Angel Reese famously declared, "I don't give a you-know-what if I get fined because that stuff is cheap and I'm tired of this stuff." She was articulating a league-wide frustration. Even WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert was forced to address it publicly, offering vague assurances that it is something that the league is continuing to work on and that they are on it. But these corporate statements ring hollow when, just days later, a player is fined for pointing out the very problem the commissioner claims to be fixing. It creates a bizarre reality where the league acknowledges a problem exists but punishes anyone who dares to describe it in public. Sophie wasn't creating a problem. She was simply holding a mirror up to the one the league was trying to hide.
She'll happily pay those fines. I think they're only fining like $200 or something. It's something crazy. Like Sophie Cunningham is making millions this year. Players don't get fined for speaking on one another, but every single player in the history of pro basketball has criticized officiating and fined for it. No, she keeps doing the same thing, getting fined for it. She literally said Paige is a good whistle. That is what she said. She said Paige, the Paige fans, my God, Paige fans are fucking nut jobs.
She literally, when I tell you, y'all, I literally feel like they are just coming for her because I feel like she should be able to say what she wants to say on her podcast. But that's just me. That's just how I feel. Then they came and then it came an earlier $500 penalty. I guess for a TikTok video, she was mocking the referees and lip singing. That was funny. So now I got a question for y'all. Do you think that she should be able to say what she wants on her own podcast? Or do you feel like, she should just shut it down and, stop bothering them with this and that?
From a pure business standpoint, the WNBA's strategy is a masterclass in brand mismanagement. The league is currently experiencing a historic moment of growth, and at the center of that is a desperate need for engaging personalities who can capture the public's imagination. In Sophie Cunningham, they have exactly that. She's been described as a spicy villain, an alpha competitor with a compelling personality who isn't afraid to stir the pot. These are the characters that build dynasties and drive ratings. Leagues like the NBA have learned to embrace and even profit from outspoken figures like Draymond Green and Patrick Beverley, who have built media empires on the back of their unfiltered takes. The WNBA, however, is taking the opposite approach. Instead of leaning into Sophie's growing brand and celebrating her as an authentic voice that makes the league more interesting, they are treating her like a rogue employee who needs to be disciplined. They are actively sabotaging one of their most effective and organic marketing assets, revealing a stunning inability to understand what captivates a modern sports audience.
The amount of traction that episode was getting, folks were saying that she could pay that off just from her YouTube monetization. And so this is just interesting because I've said before that I really wish the WNBA as well as other sports leagues would lean in to the athlete-owned media platforms because fans are a lot more interested in hearing the perspective of people who actually play the sport than just spectators and people on the outside. So the fact that they are penalizing her for showcasing her frustrations, even though tons of players have done this, post-game interviews or just talked about it on the internet in general, is very interesting.
The most dangerous consequence of this public campaign against Cunningham is the silent fear it has instilled across the league. This is bigger than just one player's fines. It's about the chilling effect that ripples through every locker room. Other players, many of whom share Sophie's exact concerns about officiating and player safety, are watching this unfold. They are seeing that voicing an honest opinion, even a valid one, results in financial punishment and public scrutiny from the league office. The private conversations are surely happening. The text between players saying, "Did you see Sophie got fined again? We better watch what we say." This creates a culture of fear where players no longer see the league as a partner in their success, but as a warden monitoring their every word. It erodes trust and discourages the kind of open dialogue that is essential for any healthy organization to grow and improve. The WNBA is inadvertently teaching its players that their silence is more valuable than their honesty.
So the entire league can talk shit about Caitlyn, but Sophie can't talk shit to Paige. No. And that's the funniest thing is that Angel Reese can say some people have a special whistle about Caitlyn Clark. In a public press conference. And it's selective fining. That's the problem. Like, Kelsey Plum has not been fined this year, and Kelsey Plum has literally just stopped entire press conferences to complain about the referees. Apparently, Stephanie White didn't get fined when Marina Mabrey knocked Caitlyn on her ass. And then Sophie Cunningham took down JC Sheldon. Apparently, Stephanie White didn't get, and Mazian did not get fined for both of them going mad at the referees.
What we are witnessing is a fundamental clash between the old guard of league control and the new era of player-driven media. Athletes are no longer content to let leagues and traditional media outlets tell their stories for them. They are building their own platforms, controlling their own narratives, and speaking directly to their fans. Sophie Cunningham's Show Me Something is the WNBA's first major test case in this new world, and the league is failing spectacularly. Their reaction to punish, to fine, to attempt to silence reveals an outdated top-down mentality that is completely incompatible with the modern media landscape. They are trying to put the genie back in the bottle, but it's already out, and it's building a massive audience that prefers the unfiltered truth to the league's polished press releases.
Only is going to push her even more to share her perspectives and share her point of view. And that's going to get her some partnerships. That's going to get her business opportunities because, again, nobody really knows what these players go through unless you're in their position. Unless you're in that position. For those who don't know, she plays for the Indiana Fever. But I love that she is voicing her concerns. I think the only way for change to happen is for you to vocalize what needs to be changed and to have it at the forefront. And she just may be the person to help further push these types of conversations ahead. So listen, let's all support Sophia, watch the first episode. And I'm excited to see what else she's talking about because
This is a battle for the future of the WNBA. It's a conflict that pits transparency against control, authenticity against corporate messaging. Sophie Cunningham has perhaps unintentionally become the leader of a rebellion, forcing a conversation the league was not prepared to have. The organization is at a historic crossroads. They are enjoying unprecedented attention, record ratings, and a new generation of superstars. The question is, what kind of league do they want to be? Will they evolve with the times, embrace the raw and authentic voices that make their product so compelling, and trust their players to be partners in growth? Or will they double down on their archaic need for control, silencing dissent and smothering the very fire that is finally making them a mainstream force? The answer will not only determine Sophie Cunningham's future, but the future of the entire league itself.